All right, and I think it's going. Sweet,
Okay.
so we'll get started. Lewis, if you want to bring up the presentation.
Do you want to go, because we went back and forth one way, do you want to go the opposite way this time? So, or do you want to cover the same slides?
Honestly, let's do opposite.
Okay.
But yeah, we're gonna throw a bunch of stuff at you guys, so you don't have to remember everything we're gonna tell you. The DM will help you through everything, and this is just to like start introducing you to concepts and terms that you might hear throughout your game. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask us at any time.
Literally anytime, interrupt anything you want.
Yeah.
Okay, but so we're gonna start with the basics. So really like the bare minimum you need to know about how D&D is played is it's going to kind of be 3 steps that are repeated over and over again. You're going to start with the DM or dungeon master, the person who made up everything. They're going to describe like the environment around you, who's there, what's happening, um, what you may be trying to do, what like are points of interest. Uh, then you as the players are going to look like think through everything you've just heard and like decide what you want to do based on this information. Um, and then after that, you're gonna usually roll dice based on some like your abilities, and depending on how that dice roll goes, you'll either do what you want to do or not, and the DM will like narrate through that and tell you what happens. So the example I always go to because I'm not creative is, so let's say you're trying to steal the key from a guard. Your DM might say, like, tell you the guard's facing the other way. There are some, he's standing like next to some crates. You're uh, like where the key is hanging on him, and you would describe like how you want to go steal it, what you'd want to do. The DM would tell you what to roll, what skills to use to roll it, and then like depending on how you went about that and if you rolled well or poorly, you would get that key, or the guard would see you and then chaos would ensue.
Okay, and then the D20. So throughout like your session, you'll be asked to roll an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw. And to do this, you'll roll the D20, which is on the bottom right. And once you roll it, you'll add bonuses based on your character sheet. And in order to do that, you have to make a check, which is the skills listed below, which is A, roll the D20, and then you add the bonuses. So for example, if you make a perception check, you would roll a D20 and then add the number listed by your perception skill. And then sometimes the DM will give you bonuses based on the situation. So you will add those as well. And then you'll compare that number to the DC, which is whether you succeed or you fail. And yeah, so sometimes it's harder to succeed on stuff and it all just depends. So after that, you might either get advantage or disadvantage, which the DM will tell you. And for advantage, when you roll the D20, you'll roll it twice and use the higher number. And then if you have a disadvantage, you'll roll the D20 and then roll it twice and then take the lower number. So a lot of this is like circumstantial. So the DM will let you know if you have advantage or disadvantage, but yeah, the D20 is kind of the god of D&D too.
Okay, but we're going to move on to arguably the most important part of what you guys will be doing, which is the ability scores. These are the 6 numbers that kind of determine everything you do and how good you are at doing it. So you've got your strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Um, just to give some examples, your strength is like just pretty self-explanatory how strong you are. Your dexterity is how nimble, how well you're able to dodge things, how like sneaky you are. Your constitution is related to like your ability to. It's related a lot to your health, your ability to keep going when hit, certain things that relate to that. Intelligence and wisdom are usually the ones players are most like, why are these different things? Your intelligence is your book smart, so anything you could learn in the library, whereas wisdom is something you'd have to learn on the street. So your streets, book smarts versus street smarts, and then your charisma is how like your ability to talk to people, your ability to like convince people to do things or intimidate them, or just anything pertaining to your interactions with another person. Any questions on these? Okay.
Okay, and then based on these ability scores, it will determine how good you are at certain types of skills. So looking at these colors, you can kind of see which skill pertains to which ability score. So for example, athletics depends on your strength, and then the orange stuff depends on your dexterity. Green is constitution, blue is
Intelligence.
Oh, green is intelligence, sorry. Blue is wisdom, and then purple is charisma. So these all kind of depend on how good your ability scores are. And I mean, depending on how you want to build your character, you'll either choose some ability scores to be higher than others, but it all just depends on the role. So these, and then throughout the session, the DM will ask you to roll skill checks. So say you want to jump across a bridge, you'll probably make an athletics roll. So that will depend on your strength ability score. Lewis, do you want to add anything on this?
No, I mean, seems pretty well covered. Most of the skills, like, they're pretty self-explanatory into which of the ability scores they relate to. But yeah, I think it will be better to get into that when we actually look at a character sheet. So now we're going to move on to adventuring. This is just going to be more of the basic thing, like everyday, more like simple things that you'll be doing while playing. We'll start out with magic items. So while playing, you're going to be getting a whole lot of things. You'll have weapons like rope, just a bunch of basic stuff, armor. But then throughout the length of your campaign, your DM will sometimes be nice and give you fun magical items that do a lot of interesting things. So these items are like, they're more important, they're more valuable, we're just overall more interesting, and they will usually have special abilities and bonuses. There are certain ones that require attunement because they're exceptionally powerful, and you can have 3 of those special items with you at one time. But on the screen, I just put some of my favorites there. I think they're real good. So in the bottom left, this is called the immovable rod. It is in a rod, you click a button on it and it'll stay exactly where you put it in midair you can put 8,000 pounds of force on it before it'll even start to move. So there's the bag of holding, which is in the upper left. This is like a small satchel sized bag that has 4 foot cube of space in it. So you'll see some weapon items that'll give you stat bonuses, but there are some that allow you to be creative and do really interesting things as a player. Cassie, you good?
Yeah, sorry. Someone's trying to call me, but declined. All right, so tools and kits. Sometimes you'll have to perform some actions that you can't really use a skill for. So for example, if you're trying to pick a lock or something, you can't really roll a check for that. So instead you'll have to use thieves tools or something like that in order to lock pick. So these tools can be purchased or sometimes come with your starting class equipment, and you use these to like repair an item, forge a document, or pick a lock. And your race, class, background, and feats may give you proficiency with these different types of tools and kits. And yeah, and it's not tied to a single ability. So sometimes you can use something you're better at in order to roll for it. So Yeah, there's a bunch of tools and kits throughout the game, so a lot of them will just fit what class you are and then what kind of character you're trying to play. So they're very interesting.
So, uh, as you may know, NPCs, non-playable characters, these are the other characters, the ones that the DM will play, and they will populate most of your world. They will be there to either give you story plot, be parts of the story, or perform tasks for you as vendors, or um, like really vendors are probably the main thing you'll see NPCs for if they aren't like directly related to the story, but they are just uh, people that'll continue to move the plot along as you go.
Okay, and then even though D&D is kind of based in magical worlds and stuff, there's still a lot of things that you kind of can't do. We have a lot of rules that are grounded in reality. So like for example, you can't really jump over an entire mountain or something like that's kind of impossible. So a lot of these like limitations are basically like real world stuff, but you can try to do it, but a lot of it won't work out. So you just have to kind of understand that even though it's a magical world, a lot of the stuff is kind of unlikely to be able to be done. Like if you want to walk on lava, you can't really do that unless you have a spell or something. So you'll just have to find the stuff that helps you and how you play your character.
Um, so throughout the game, you will be expending some of your reusable resources, such as health or spell slots or hit die, which will help you heal up in the middle of combat. Most of these will be through after combat. Most of these will be used through combat, but these are where you're going to find your short rests and your long rests. Your short rests they can really range anywhere from like 30 minutes to like couple hours, depending on your DM's discretion. But these are a time like you'll do them in between combat. It won't take you a whole day, but you'll just spend some time resting to regain some health. Um, your long rests, however, are going to be your like big, like you get everything back after those, all health, the ability to cast as many like all the spells you'd be allotted at your level, and all of that. That's also where you're gonna if you want to go shopping or stuff, this is to find items. This will probably be when you do it. Uh, there is another section of like rest that kind of goes outside of this called downtime. And this is usually what the DM will is sometimes what the DM will put in like in between important parts of a campaign. So like if you've just like killed off some big bad evil guy and it doesn't make sense that the campaign would just keep going up, there may be a lull and you'll have time to just like do things that your character wants to do. And this could be like creating magical items, doing research or whatever that is. And that'll just be like a couple days to like, I've heard some downtime can be like a year. So downtime's like very ambiguous and it's just like do things and make your character better just by saying it. Cassie, do you want me to go over combat again?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in if I have something to say.
So yeah, that's really all the adventuring. So we'll get into some of the combat, which is going to be, no matter how role play based it is, the combat in D&D will be a pretty big part of it. So on every one of your turns in combat, there's going to be what you call the action economy, and that is just what your player can do. It's broken up into 4 parts. Every turn you can move. Every turn you can use an action, which we'll get to like what types of actions you can use in a later slide. You can use a bonus action, which is like an extra thing. Let's say you are wielding 2 weapons at once, you can attack with your action and then bonus attack with the second weapon if you're dual wielding. So that's like one example of what a bonus action might be used for. In the traits for your character, you'll usually find ways you can use those. But then your reaction is going to be something you do when it's not your turn. So let's say you are a certain class that can protect people. You may see a character that's right next to you get attacked, and you can use your reaction to like make it harder for them to be hit or decrease the damage they're dealt. But your main action that's going to be the whole thing. So you've got attacks going to be mostly what you do, and I've got to say that the others technically aren't just like a baby, but attack is mostly what you're going to be doing. So attack's pretty self-explanatory, but the help action will be you expend your turn to give someone else advantage on something. You dodge will be giving yourself advantage on anyone that tries to hit you. Disengage will be to move away from enemies. Dash will be to move twice your movement speed in one turn. And then hide will, like if you're next to a bush or next to a column, you can use your turn to say, I am hiding, and like people won't be able to hit you with ranged attacks. I think that's how hide works. I'm 90% sure that's how hide works.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And then also just to jump in, sometimes you don't have to attack the thing that you're facing. You can try different things like charming it or talking to it. And sometimes you're not even meant to attack them. So say like you have like a level 20, like a really big dragon, and you're like a level 1 party, like it's not the smartest move to attack. So you don't always have to go into combat there. You can find creative ways to work around it.
Yes. It's probably it can get more interesting when you do find those ways to work around it. But there will always be some combat. Then the attack action. So I don't know if that's no. So the attack action is really what it's like any skill checks. What you're going to be doing is first you're going to roll your d20, and you're going to add a modifier based on the skill you're using to attack with. And then if you roll well enough, if you go at or above the enemy's armor class, which just is the number that you need to roll above to hit them, you will roll a secondary dice and add a different modifier to that, and that will be the damage you deal to them. So it sounds bad when you're just saying it out loud, but it's pretty self-explanatory when actually playing. But damage and death. So when you do enough attacks, things are going to die, and sometimes that will be your player character as well. So in campaigns, unfortunate turn events, you may die, and that'll lead to what are called death saving throws. You won't die immediately. You will be turned unconscious and unstable. So every turn, instead of attacking or doing one of those things, you will just roll a straight d20. And if you get a 10 or above, it's a success. If you get a 1 through 9, it's a failure. If you get 3 failures, your character does die, and you need to roll a new character. I think Cassie can talk to that in a bit. But then if you get 3 successes, you are unconscious but stable, meaning that you won't die. If something attacks you while you are in that limbo state, then you will take a failure, and if someone heals you, it will bring you back starting at 0, not add like negative how much damage you took. So like, let's say you're at 2 hit points, you take 4, you want at -2, you're still at 0. So if someone heals you for 5 hit points, you're back up to 5.
Yeah, and then to talk about, I'll give you some personal examples. So my character in Jake's campaign just died, so I've been in the process of making a new one, but basically we were playing like a 6-hour campaign, a dungeon crawl, and of course our final battle was some demon from hell, and my character was out of spell slots and my health was really low. So ultimately, I took like 42 hit points, which is one more than I needed. And my character died after failing checks. But basically, like once your character dies, you'll just roll a new character and make sure it like fits into the storyline, kind of has a reason for joining the existing party. And yeah, you'll just start playing that new character when the session picks up next. And this is very rare as well, but sometimes there's something called a total party kill or TPK, and that's when the entire party is unfortunately killed. A lot of DMs won't do that, but sometimes it does happen. So in that instance, your entire group will have to figure out some new characters. But yeah, death is a thing to consider because it will happen.
Um, two quick little, well, I guess three quick little things. If you roll a nat 20, which just means when you roll the d20, you get like the 20 highest score possible, you come up with 1 hit point instead of staying unconscious. But if you roll a nat 1, which is like critical failure, worst you can do, you will take 2 fails um, instead of 1 fail. And then last thing, there is insta death. So if your character so this is what happened to Cassie's character. If your character takes their max hit point amount of damage uh, into the negatives with 1 attack, then they die immediately. So Cassie was at 1 hit point with her character with a max of 40, and she was dealt 41 damage. So it took the 1 off and then went negative 40, so she died instantly. So that's always something to think about. But those are the basics of combat right now. Now we can go into spell casting. You want to start that off, Cassie?
Yeah, so basically, some classes include spellcasting, which is known as a spellcaster, and you'll have some certain steps and rules based on the spells you have access to. So, depending on what class you pick, you will get some spells. And then I think if you move to the next slide, it talks about spell levels.
Can you see it, Cassie?
I can only see the spellcasting basics. Okay, there we go. So
Ooh, you're okay.
okay, so there's kind of like two sections of spells. First is your cantrips, which are basically spells that you either get immediately with your class, and they're kind of like level 0, and you can cast them without using a spell slot, which will be talked about in a later slide. And yeah, and then you have your level 1 through 9 spells. So the spells are kind of based by level, and however high the level is, how powerful it will be. So level 9 spells are extremely powerful, while level 1 spells they're less powerful. But your spell level and character level don't really correspond directly. Typically, you have to be like around the 17th level to get access to level 9 spells. So you'll get all the descriptions once you start building your character, but as you level up, you will get access to more of these spells.
Okay, so spell slots. As you can see over on the right side of the screen, this is what at the beginning of every class you play, there will be this like chunk attack that just like is the synopsis of your character from level 1 to 20. And if your character can cast magic, you will see this list this table that'll tell you spell slots per level. So for a wizard at first level, they have 2 first level spell slots, and they know 3 cantrips. So you will, on your character sheet, you'll see like where you can write that down, and just know that every day you have 2 spells and 2 first level spells, and you will have to take a long rest before you can cast those again. But as you move up, everything, the numbers will keep increasing and you will just keep getting more. So yeah.
And then some spells can be cast as rituals, and you'll see like under the name of the spells, there's a ritual tag. So basically this means you can cast a spell without using a spell slot, but you'll have to add 10 minutes to the casting time. So for example, the casting time for this is 1 action. So that would be 10 minutes added on to that. And only certain classes have the ability to cast spells as rituals, such as clerics and wizards. And not all classes have the same rules when it comes to rituals, so you'll just have to figure out what your description says.
And ritual spells usually won't be used in combat because of the extra 10 minutes to cast. Most combat will be done in less than 10 minutes, like in game time. So these are more used for like if you're trying to track someone through a city or more narrative, for more narrative points. But then you will always have your schools of magic. These aren't like particularly important to know. It can just like lead to more of how you flavor your flavor your characters. So the 8 schools are abjuration, illusion, enchantment, divination, evocation, transmutation, necromancy, and conjuration. So like aren't super important to know, but they can be valuable if you're ever like casting a spell that will tell you what type of magic it is. If you like go to a list that says these, you may like get a little bit more knowledge based on of what's happening based on the school of magic that's being cast. So not super important, but always nice to know.
All right, and then casting a spell. Most spells require 1 action to cast, but some have different ones listed. So basically, if it's not an action, you can either cast it as a bonus action, which you use after your main action, and you can't cast another spell during the same turn. You can also use it as a reaction. So if, for example, like you get an attack and you can see the spell is a reaction, you have the chance to cast that spell even if it's not your turn. And then some other spells have long casting times, and if it's longer than a single action or reaction, you must spend each action of your turn trying to cast the spell. And if it's concentration, you have to keep making concentration checks while you do that. And if something interrupts that, then you are unable to cast the spell. So for example, wish, it's 1 action. And for other spells, you'll see different things listed.
Just note seems pretty like a good example of like the difference. So a couple slides ago, we saw, I'll just jump back to it. There was the spell Dusk Moth, which was a cantrip, and it literally just created a small source of light. But then with 9th level spells, like we see right here with Wish, you can literally just like create the effects of any spell, create objects worth thousands of gold pieces, or just heal everyone. So the strength and level of these spells really does like increase as you continue. But then duration. So this is going to be the second like length of time you have to be interested in while casting a spell. Whereas the casting time will be like right up here, your duration is going to be right here, and it'll either be instantaneous or any length longer that with that, usually with concentration. So instantaneous spells are just usually they're attack spells, but they can also be things like this where the effect of them will happen immediately and you'll get to see whatever does happen, like happens now, but there will be spells that I guess will also happen immediately, but their effects will last for a long time. One example of this is called Shield of Faith, which is a spell like a paladin can cast on others that'll last for about an hour, I think. And it will just they use like their spiritual energy to keep people safe, and it will give you bonuses to your armor class and stuff. But that has a longer duration. So stuff like that. For spells that do have longer durations, some of them will have concentration. And this just means that if you are ever hit with an attack, you will have to roll to like keep concentrating on that spell. If you fail your check, then the spell will end immediately. But we can move on from that.
Okay, and then as you can see, every spell will require a component. So there's three main types of component: verbal, somatic, and material. And you'll see it listed under the component section. And basically verbal is like a chant or a word you'll have to say to cast a spell. Somatic is kind of like a motion or you move your arms. And then material is kind of a particular object the spell requires, such as a sprinkle of holy water. And there's also a chance that there might be a cost with the spell, like 25 gold pieces. So you'll see all of that listed. And you can use a component pouch or a spell casting focus in place of the components listed, and you'll get that with your class or your background. So you'll be able to get all of that to cast it. But if you don't have these components, you won't be able to cast the spell.
Most DMs I've seen don't really play with the material components, even if they cost money. So just know, like, unless it's a very powerful spell, DMs will usually just let it fly and let you use whatever you want. But then the last little things to know are, if you are a spellcaster, you will have two things called your spell save and your spell attack. And one of those will be the bonus you add if you're attacking people, and that'll be your spell attack. But then your spell save will be some spells will have like a ranged effect that people have to move out of the way of. So you don't attack on them, they will roll a saving throw, and your spell save is just the number they have to beat to successfully dodge that spell. But we'll like talk about how to get those a little bit later.
Okay, and finally, conditions reference. This isn't as important, but throughout the game, the DM will tell you if you are encountering different conditions based on a spell attack or something. So, for example, if an enemy like casts a spell on you, sometimes there's a condition applied to it. So you could be blinded, charmed, frightened, and you'll have to do what the condition says. And you either have to like heal yourself or have someone else help you get out of that condition. But this is all just like a case-by-case basis, and the DM will let you know if you are under a condition, or you'll see that a spell gives you a certain condition. So this isn't as important, but it will come up.
Okay, and so we're just gonna run through like the basic creation of a character. Cassie's got one prepared. She's gonna like talk through it, and then I'll be like filling out a character sheet and then showing some things off as we go through it. We're moving so much faster through this now than we did last night, Cassie.
We're on it. We're good. Do you guys have any questions or
not first
anything you want more clarification on, or something doesn't make sense? Okay, sweet. Yeah, a lot of this you won't have to know you won't have to know. Once you start playing, you'll get more used to the rules and stuff, and the DMs will be there to help you and guide you through your first time playing, and everybody's here to have a good time. So do not fret if you don't know them perfectly. But yeah, character creation. So basically you'll get this character sheet. You can get a lot of them online. There's a lot of online tools to help you build it, but there's 3 pages. The first page basically has like your skills, your abilities, just information you need to know. Second page has your backstory, like other stuff. You can put a picture of your character, and then your third page is spells and everything you'll need to list for that. And let's see. So there's basically 3 sections you need to know about building a character. You need to know your race, your class, and then your background. So those 3 things will kind of guide you for your character creation. So let's see. So for this, the race that we're going to do is a tiefling, and the class is going to be a ranger. But let's go through the races and the classes real quick so you guys can kind of see.
Yeah. So this is like basic list of the main 9 you'll see in the player handbook. But we'll just like run through a PDF. We've got like PDFs for everything. I think we'll be sharing this out. So it's the anyways, so this it's a big folder. It has the player handbook, but just like broken down a little bit. So it's easier to find things you need. But these are the races. So you've got your dwarves. They're dwarves, like dwarves. In this will go through everything. Then you've got your elves. They're so self-explanatory, like everyone's seen them, so we'll just skip through the easy ones. Some races will have like different subclasses. For example, the elves, you've got high elves, which are technically like in the world of D&D, they're seen as a little more pompous. You've got your wood elves, which are just kind of happier, and then you've got your dark elves, which are usually come from underground. Oh, yes, I will. I'm gonna put the link to this folder in the Discord because I made it in the in like the shared drive. We do like all the work for this club in, so I will make something separate for that and post this, and then I think I can just share the character sheet right now. Let me. That should hopefully do something. But then we've got halflings, which are just kind of humans, but short. They are go-getters. They are lucky, which is just one of their traits. Anytime you roll a nat 1 on anything, you just get to re-roll it. Yeah. You got your humans. That's all I'm gonna say. Your dragonborn, which are half human, half dragon. You can like breathe, like you have breath weapons like any dragon would, like that. No, that is not good. Sorry, one sec. I'll just share the file. This is gonna be so fun to watch.
It's okay. I'll cut through it.
Copy.
Yeah, and we'll make a folder full of like a bunch of resources for you guys and different like websites that will help explain some concepts and stuff better.
We'll get to it someday.
You don't have to. I got the.
Oh, you got it.
You just have to take out the file : / and then it comes up.
Perfect. Oh, I thought that was you doing an emoticon, like, you just have to take out the file. No, never mind. We're all good.
Don't worry, I thought the same thing.
Anyways,
I would be like so passive aggressive. I'm just sitting here and be like, well, if you just did it right, we wouldn't be here.
No,
So-
Converse though. Shame on you, Lewis.
dang it, it's all my fault. But Dragonborn are dragon men. That's their whole thing. Your gnomes are your gnomes. Your half elves they're usually flavored to my mom and dad like just kind of abandoned me because I wasn't fully one thing or the other. I've seen so many of those as characters. Then you've got your half orcs, which are half orc, half whatever race you want to be, and then your tieflings which are what we're going to be using today. These are humans that were cursed by the devils a long time ago, and so they just kind of have an infernal heritage, and now they've got horns and tail and are usually purple. So they're one of my favorite races. I'm playing one right now, but there are like 30 something other races that just kind of exist officially. So if you look up D&D races, you can just find a huge list of them if you ever want to go see what's up. I'll let you talk through some more tieflings stuff though, Cassie, if you want.
Yeah. Okay, so basically tieflings, when you choose your race, you'll see some ability scores bonuses that are added to that. So for example, tieflings get a +2 to their charisma ability score. So based on your stats that you roll, you can add +2 to the ones that you choose. So I can use the stats that I'm using for this game, but if we want to show you guys how to roll, we can do that right now as well.
Yeah,
So in order to roll stats, you'll roll 4 6-sided die, so a 4d6, and you'll take the 3 highest rolls from that to get your ability score. So I'm sorry, I might have explained that in a confusing way, but we'll show you how to do that right now. And you'll get 6 rolls.
if this is okay, yeah, so you're gonna roll 4. Oh, Dean keeps cutting out.
She said her Wi-Fi is really bad.
Yeah, it happened. But so you're gonna roll 4d6. So how stuff is annotated in D&D will be the number, and then it'll either be D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, or D20, and that just means the 6-sided dice or the 4-sided dice. So the number of the type of dice you roll, and then any additions. So we're gonna roll 4d6. So we got a 1, a 6, a 3, and a 4. So we would take the highest of these 3. So the 6, the 4, and the 3, and then we'd add them together, and that would give us 13. So, and then you just forget about the 1. And then you would do that process 6 separate times, and that would give you your 6 ability scores that you would put into your character sheet. So do you just want to use your 6, Cassie, and then?
Yeah, let's do that. Here, let me get them real quick.
We can go over it again if she's able to get back in.
Yeah, shoot. I have so many pages of notes. I'm trying to find where I put it. And Dean said her Wi-Fi went out. She just texted me. Okay, got it. I have so many, like, look at my notes. It's so messy. Okay, so basically I rolled really well for this character. So I got a 10, an 11, a 13, an 18, and then a 16, and then a 14. So I made charisma my second highest score. So basically I have a 10 intelligence, a 13 constitution, and then a 11 dexterity, And then a 18 charisma, since I got a 16 and then added the 2 to it. A 14 for strength. And then I have a 20 wisdom, but that's just class bonuses and stuff added as well. So it's an 18 right now.
Okay, that's an 18 for
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we did with that is, well, never mind. Sorry. So what we did is we rolled these dice. Like, we did this process 6 times. We got those 6 numbers, and then based on her class and what she is, we just plugged them in and then added the bonuses from the race. So, and then you put these all in the little ovals right here, and then all of these lead to your secondary number, which is the actual modifier you'll be using. Yeah.
You roll 6 times, and then you get to decide which stat to assign each of those 6 numbers to?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
Yes,
like depending on the character you have in mind, so if you're trying to play like a really strong character, you might want to do your stats like higher in strength and constitution. And there's like people like min-max a lot, but basically you'll just flavor the stats to what you're trying to do as your character.
What are you playing as your character, Cassie? We can just pull up that.
Yes, so I'm playing a tiefling ranger, and then
Hey, Cassie, are you gonna be a melee ranger?
no, unfortunately not.
And why is your dexterity? Why is your strength higher than your? We don't need to get into this conversation right now.
You'll see. I mean,
Okay. Sorry, don't mind us. So she's gonna play a ranger, which
let's go through the classes real quick. I have like 1 sentences that kind of describe each class with a word.
Hi, Jude. Thanks for joining us. We're just going over a little bit of basic character creation right now. We moved a little faster than we were expecting, but so take the floor, Cassie.
All right, so classes. This character building is so much fun, and classes are really like the main thing that add a lot of spice to your character. So let's go through them. So a barbarian is kind of like a savage melee combatant that is incredibly tough to take down and often will go into rages. There's like the stereotype that barbarians just get angry and fight everybody in their path. And kind of a pop culture reference to this is like either the Hulk, Drax, or like the bride from Kill Bill. And then clerics. Wait, let me just go bard. Okay, bards. They're like storytellers who use music or speeches, and they have a lot of magic and lore to get out of tight situations. They're very like charming, and kind of a pop culture reference is like Star-Lord or Rapunzel. And then let's see, clerics. Clerics are heavily armored defense supporters. They're devoted to a deity, and these are holy healers, kind of like priests, medics, and warriors all at once. So if you're looking to play like a character who's able to heal the party like a lot, as well as be very strong in combat, clerics is where you want to go. And for example, Thor would be a cleric, or Friar Tuck from Robin Hood. And then you have your druids. I love druids. Druids are so underrated, but these are characters who are in tune with all things natural, and they use magic to draw the power from the earth itself. They often have the ability to shapeshift into various animals, and for example, Radagast and Poison Ivy would be druids. And then you have your fighters. These are skilled combatants or strategists, typically relying on armor and weapons to defeat their enemies, and Legolas would be a fighter, Captain America or Mulan would be fighters. And then you have your monks. These are unarmed martial artists, and they use speed and wit to be very fast in combat and avoid being damaged. And Batman or Po from Kung Fu Panda would be an example of a monk. And then you have your paladins. These are a mixture of like cleric and fighter classes. They're skilled in combat, but also make use of a small selection of magical boons from a deity, and Dark Vader, Wonder Woman, Private Jackson would be examples of paladins. And then Rangers, this is the class we're going to build right now, but they use like a unique blend of wilderness knowledge, martial ability, and just tough magic to be a deadly hunter, whether it's the use of traditional weapons or like favorite animal companions. And Aragon, Daryl Dixon, or Jon Snow would be a ranger. And then you have your rogues. So these are your thieves, assassins, or other stealthy characters who have a knack for picking out an enemy's weakness and exploiting it. So Sherlock Holmes, Bilbo Baggins, and Black Widow would be rogues. And then you have your sorcerers. This is a magic user who draws his power from within, summoning his imaginal magic powers. So Doctor Strange or Elsa would be a sorcerer. And then you have your warlocks. These are they have a pact to a powerful entity, and they trade favors for like different magical spells or other stuff. So Vision, Captain Jack Sparrow, or Ash Williams would be kind of considered a warlock. And then finally, you have your wizards. So these are like keepers of arcane secrets and forgotten knowledge. They get their magic from reading and books and spell scrolls, and Hermione or Gandalf or Merlin would be considered a wizard. So yeah, these are your basic classes. Another thing to note is in your classes, there's also subclasses that you'll either get by, you can choose when you reach a certain level or after you start out, you can choose a subclass. So for example, the character I'm building right now is a ranger, but the subclass they're going to be is a Fey Wanderer. So you can like delve into these different subclasses because you'll often unlock them once you begin leveling up. So, but we're just going to do a level 1 ranger right now. Okay.
Any questions about the classes or anything before we like start looking at it a little bit more? So Cassie's character is the ranger. It's again foresty hunter type. But so Jude, how much experience do you have? Sorry, just curious.
I've been playing for about a year now, so I have a decent amount of experience.
Okay.
I just came to because I've really only played magic casting classes, and so I just kind of wanted to see other people's points of view.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we talked about rolling the stats. So these are the stats we're going to be using for this Tiefling Ranger. And then up here is where you're going to fill some things in. So you're going to do your race right here. So Tiefling. The class is going to be Ranger. One, usually I usually just put the subclass before once you get it, but right now they don't have it. And then your name goes here. I'll put Louis. And then Cassie, I don't want to know your actual character's name because I want to.
Yeah, no, I'll keep that a secret. So you guys want to pick a name for the Tiefling Ranger? Okay. God, let's see.
Let's just go with the same. We did it last.
Yeah.
Last time we did this, someone said Carol Folt, so we're gonna go with Carol Folt again. Carol Folt, the Tiefling Ranger.
Sweet. What a concept. So.
Sorry, let's finish out the ability scores first before we move on to anything else. So where you'll see why the reason you'd put them in is there's this little quick build section that's going to come with every class. And this is like for people, if it's your first time creating a class, which probably will be. So this will like step you through the things you'll want to do. So for Ranger, first you want to make your dexterity your highest ability, and then follow that up by wisdom. That's what you can do, Cassie did it, so.
I actually just realized I am playing a melee ranger, so that's gonna be very interesting. But it adds spice to your character, and you kind of want to build off your character concept.
Yeah, but so as a ranger, she does have the ability to cast spells, and her spellcasting is wisdom, so that's why her wisdom is very high. But yeah, so let's just go back and explain these. So each of these small numbers relates to a bigger number up here. So, well, smaller number up here, but 10 and 11 is your base. It's 0. You are completely average. You have completely average whatever ability is. And then every even number you hit, it increases by 1. So 12 and 13 are your +1, 14, 15 are +2, up to 5 in a normal game, +5 in a normal game. So that would be when you hit 20. So this Carol Folt's strength is going to be +2. Dexterity is going to be 0 because it's in the 10-11 range. Constitution is going to be 1 because it's in the 12-13 range. Intelligence is a 0. Wisdom is going to be a 4 because it's in the 18-19, and then charisma is also a 4. So that is how you're going to put the pluses in front. So
yeah, and you can get negative stuff to this too. Lewis can attest to this. I think he's playing an intelligence 4 character. So
I rolled a real special score, and my intelligence is I've got a -3 to any roll I make that uses intelligence. So it's really fun. But yeah, a dump stat can be fun. Like contextually, my character will literally just like do anything you want them to. But yeah, so let's continue on with the class probably.
yeah, so when you get your class, you also will get some proficiency, which will be listed. So for example, you get armor proficiency, weapons, tools, saving throws, and then skills. So these will all be listed under the class you pick. So for the ranger, the proficiencies in armor are light armor, medium armor, and then shields. We're also proficient in simple weapons and martial weapons. No tools, unfortunately, but saving throws would be strength and dexterity, and then skills, we get to choose 3, either animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, perception, stealth, or survival. So you'll just pick these based on like the type of character you're trying to play. So I think I picked animal handling, investigation, and perception.
Okay, and to fill this out on the character sheet, sorry, one sec, let me erase it's probably fine. So any of those proficiencies in like armors or tools, you just put that here, like usually it's just written out like and then list it off, do the same with your weapons and tools. But then for the saving throws and skill proficiencies, what you're gonna do is you're gonna mark. So sorry, what does the ranger get? I'll just check. Ranger gets saving throws in strength and dexterity. So you're gonna mark this little circle right next to these two, and I'll explain what that does in just a second. But then Cassie chose the skills. It was animal handling, investigation
And perception.
Investigation and perception. So we do the same thing where we mark the dots right there. So animal handling, investigation, and perception. And then before we fill all these out, you're always going to have a proficiency bonus. So this is just based on your character's level. It'll be on every one of these synopses of your class. And then about every 4th level, time you level up, it'll increase by 1. So right now at 1st level, you have a +2. So we'll put that in. That is not it. There we go. And then how that's going to be used is any of these skills you have a dot next to, you can add your proficiency bonus to any roll. So like I'll fill out the saving throws column right here. So it's literally a 1-to-1. So if you ever need to make a charisma saving throw, you get a +4 to it. And I promise I put +4 in there. It's so small and there's no fixing it. Wisdom will also be a +4. Your intelligence her intelligence bonus will be a 0. Constitution is +1. Dexterity, instead of being 0, because her proficiency bonus is +2, she has the 0 +2. So overall, it's a +2 when she rolls a dexterity saving throw. And for strength, the same way, it'll be the 2 + 2, so a 4. And then on this list of skills, you go the same way. If you can maybe see after each skill there's in parentheses, it tells you which one of the ability scores it relates to. So like acrobatics is related to your dex, so she would have a +0 in there. And then animal handling is related to her wisdom, but she has proficiency in that, so it would be the +4 for wisdom and the +2 for her proficiency bonus. So overall, it would be a +6 whenever she rolls to like work with animals or try and get something she wants from animals. And you just go through this whole list, filling out those. So it's relatively self-explanatory once you just like know how to do it. One thing I will note is we'll do perception. So she's got a +4 to her wisdom, and then she has proficiency in it. So that's going to be a +6. And then anytime you're just moving around the world, like not really actively searching for anything, your DM may ask you what your passive wisdom is or your passive perception. And maybe there's just someone like you're walking down like a forest path and there's someone like moving the other way through the forest. If like one of your characters has a high enough passive perception, maybe they see that. And it could just lead to something like that. And that's just going to be 10. So 10 base roll plus whatever your perception is. So she has a passive perception of 16. I hope that made some sense.
Oh, that was good. All right, and then moving on to hit points and hit die. So as a ranger, your hit die is going to be a 1d10. So basically that means you'll roll a 1d10 every time you increase a level, and then you'll add your constitution modifier to each of those rolls. So at the first level, we'll get 10 plus my constitution modifier, which I think is a +1 or 2. So I would start off with 11 or 12 hit points. And yeah, so when you level up, you'll just roll this hit die and add your constitution modifier to see how many hit points you'll be getting. And you'll just have to keep track of it, like when you're in combat or how low you're getting. It's just good to know. And let's see, you also gain a hit die every time you level up. So you'll be able to use this on short rest or stuff to regain some hit points after like an attack or something.
Yeah, and just looking at the character sheet, so your hit point maximum is going to be on this line. This number will almost never change unless you level up, and therefore it increases. But the number that will be changing a lot is the number in here. It'll, at the start of every day, it'll go up to whatever your maximum is. But then if you take damage, you will just actively be increasing and decreasing this. It will never go past your max. Though any like, if some people may like cast a spell that, and the result maybe you get like 6 temporary hit points, you would just write that in here, and then you take away from temporary first and then current. So like if I took 7 damage right here, I would take the 6 from here, that would go to 0. And then I'd take 1 right here and I'd be at 10. So yeah, and then hit dice are going to be, if you take a short rest in between fights, you would just roll whatever you have. So Cassie has a 1d10 hit dice and has a total of them equal to her level. So she's got 1d10. Well, 1d10, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so then you can see to the right of the hit die is your death save. So basically you'll just fill in the circles if you fail or succeed them if you're in that type of situation. And then below that you have your attacks and your spell casting. So before we do that, based on your class, you'll get starting equipment and you'll be able to choose from the following granted by that. So for Ranger, we get either scale mail or leather armor, and then 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons, and then either a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack, as well as a longbow and a quiver of 20 arrows. So forgot what I picked, but I did pick scale mail, and I think I have a short sword and a spear.
Okay, we can probably run through like what that means in a little
Yeah.
bit. But
Yeah.
so those will just clear the screen real quick. Those will end up going right here in your character sheet where it says equipment. So you just start listing those off. So like short swords here. And then right next to this is where you'll keep track of your money. So copper pieces, silver pieces, we don't talk about Electrium, gold pieces, and platinum pieces. These are just, it's your currency. It's basically 100 copper make a gold, 10 silver make a gold. So your gold is like $1. These are like, silver are your dimes and copper are your pennies. And then your platinum pieces are your $10 bills. So that's how that relates to everything. With armor class, I guess let's actually look at some of the equipment real quick. Actually, do we want to do your background before we do equipment?
Yeah, let's talk about background real quick. So it's one of the top 3 things you'll have to figure out for your character. So after you figure out your race and your class, you want to figure out your background. So there's a bunch of different backgrounds online. You have your player handbook ones, then you have a bunch of homebrew backgrounds as well. So usually you'll just pick the type of character you want to be playing. So if you want to be playing like a really intelligent type of character, you can either pick like archaeologist, astronomer, and basically it's just tuned to what you want to be role playing. So for me, I'm playing a psychic in this character, so that's going to be my background.
Okay, that's not in the book, right?
That is not. It's homebrew. So
Cool. I'll just like pull up one and then you tell us what you did instead. So like for every background, what it's going to give you is 2 skill pro. It'll give you 3 things plus a little bit of extra equipment at the very beginning. Those 3 things are going to be either like 3 tool for proficiencies. Sorry, no, it's 4 things, and there'll be a mix of tool proficiencies and skill proficiencies. So like for a soldier, you automatically get skill proficiencies in athletics and intimidation. And then you get tool proficiencies with a type of gaming set, which you'll find a list of those. We'll show you where it is. And then land vehicles. But Cassie, what did the psychic give your psychic?
Okay, I won't tell you everything, but I got proficiency in 2 more languages. So I chose Undercommon as well as Celestial. And then some more weapons. Actually, I didn't get a weapon. And yeah, okay, those are the language. I also got proficiency in a game set. So I picked playing cards. So that would also be added. And then some features I got. One feature I did get with this is channeling. So basically dead things are able to use me as kind of a medium to speak to the party. And they use my body to kind of speak. So that's just one of the features I got. Another one is psychic awe. So basically I kind of have an otherworldly kind of aura around me, and I am able to use that to my advantage. And let's see, do I want to talk about the flaws and the personality traits as well?
Maybe a little bit. Okay, so like that's a more interesting version of a background. Usually the book ones are a bit more tame. They won't like give you things like the dead can talk through you, but like as you language is there something we should probably cover. There are a lot of them in D&D, so your character will only know a set amount, so everyone automatically knows common usually, but she also chose undercommon and celestial, so you would write that in with your and you may know a couple more from being a tiefling, but that's something you just see when looking through your race. With the tools, like if she's proficient in a gaming set, so you could put like cards in here, and that could be like if you're trying to distract someone using your play, like if you're trying to like play a game of cards to like you're betting with someone in a bar, maybe the DM would have you like roll with your card proficiency to see if you like win the bet or something. So that's maybe like where a gaming proficiency would come in. But that's like where the your background comes in. Sometimes it will give you skills though, and that would just be mark the dots of the things they said. But I think we can move on to some equipment and that. Oh wait, did you want to cover these real quick?
Yeah, let's do that real quick. So basically, depending on your background, you'll get like some example traits you want to do. So usually Lewis and I both do the same thing. We have a character in mind and then we pick the closest thing that's listed in the background. So for example, my personality trait, let me pull it up. I sometimes dream of stuff that often holds no relevance, but I get visions of the future. So that would be my personality trait. And then like my ideals, I like balance. So I have a reason, I have a cause, and I want to keep balance in the world. And then for my bonds, I have these powers for a reason and I will use them to my benefit. And then my flaws, I won't do the one that I picked, but basically your flaw is kind of sorry, I'm trying not to spoil stuff for Lewis, but your flaw kind of is like the hidden part of your character that you don't really want other people to know. So for a previous character I played, my flaw was I'm power hungry. I don't care who gets in my path, but power is the one thing I want. So these are just, they're not like super vital, but they kind of give you like guides to kind of role play your character a little bit better and give your party a better idea of like who you are.
Do you roll for this or do you just choose it?
You so they give you the rolling option for the sake of like you like it, you can make a random like perfectly random character down to the fact that they will give you a random personality too. A lot of the times like I won't pick flaws, bonds, ideals, and personality traits from the book. I'll look at the character I think I want to play and then make up my own. So it's very much optional whether you want to use the ones that are in the book or just kind of make it own based on the person you want to play. So yeah, like feel free to do whatever you want with these. They're just guidelines. But yeah, that's background. So let's just move on to weapons and armor, and then we'll look at spells just for a little bit. So this is the armor table. It's all the armor you'll have unless you find some magical armor. But so you said you chose scale mail, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be in medium armor, and so scale mail is right there. The cost is usually not something you're going to have to worry about as a player, but looking at the armor class, it is 14 plus whatever your dex modifier is to a maximum of 2. So, and then she has disadvantage on stealth checks because you clink around in that armor and stuff. So, but on the character sheet, we would just write like scale mail. Is it one word or two?
I think it's 2.
male, scale male, and then we'll fill out armor class right now. So like it said, 14 plus your dex to a max of 2. She has a +0 to dex, so her armor class is 14. I hope you have some bonuses somewhere, Cassie.
Okay, I do. I basically, like, when I leveled up, I was able to add some ability modifiers. So I actually have a 13 dex, but that's just because it's a level 6 character. But 15 AC right now. My last character, who unfortunately got killed in the last session, had only 11 AC. So that was one of the factors that ultimately did not benefit.
Yeah, and depending on like what you're playing, you can really just buff that AC real hard. I started out the campaign with an 11 AC. I currently have an 18 as a sorcerer, so yeah, it can just put in a little time effort, tell your character DM what magical items you're into. Eventually you'll get them, and eventually you'll break the game. But let's just do one weapon so you get a sense of how it works. So with weapons, you like weapon proficiencies, it'll tell you about that in here. But then it will give you a list of different attributes that a weapon can have, ranging from finesse, which just means that you can make the attack with dexterity instead of strength, to like thrown, which means you can throw it, and reach, which is like a spear would have reach. It can, instead of like you have to be within 5 feet of the character, you have to be within 10 feet. So it'll be things like that. If you have a weapon that gives you a weird one, you can definitely just like go look it up. But then let's just do the short sword, because in martial weapons, you'll find the short sword right here. And then right here, we see that it is 1d6 piercing and has the finesse and light traits. So we would, sorry, just think. So what you do is you'd first put the name of the weapon. So short sword. And then your attack bonus is based off. So she has proficiency, so she'd get to add this number to it. And then she'd also add whatever she's using to attack with. So Cassie, I'm going to assume you're attacking with strength, even though it's finesse. Yeah. So she'd take the +2 from strength and the +2 from her proficiency bonus, add those together, and whenever she rolls to attack, she has a +4. And then if she hits, the damage she deals, you can see right here, it is 1d6 piercing. That's the base damage. So we'd write in 1d6, and then plus her strength, so +2. And so anytime you hit, you just roll the d6 and add 2 to that result. And then that is piercing damage. So I usually just mark it with a P. Your main 3 damage types are going to be piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning, which pretty self-explanatory. If you stab, you pierce. If you slash, you slash. And then if you just hit something really hard, you bludgeon. But you'd go through that with all of your weapon attacks, and then you'd go through it with the same way with your spell attacks too. I think, yeah, let's just like go through one spell to cover it.
So let's see. I'm lucky because like I have a bunch of spells ready to go. All right. So, one thing we didn't cover is when you pick a race, there's also sub races that you'll be able to choose. So, for example, for a tiefling, there's different bloodlines you can choose, which give you more ability modifiers. So I chose the bloodline of, I'm gonna mess up this name, but Mephistopheles something.
Mephistopheles.
Yeah, something like that. But it added a +1 to my intelligence modifier, and it also gave me access to the mage hand cantrip. So I guess we can cover that spell.
Also, like if you do end up playing a tiefling and you're looking in the player handbook for where the hell those subclasses are, not technically in the player handbook. You're going to want to look those up. They're just in another book. They're an extra part from another book. There are so many books you'll find things in, but yeah. Let's go over spells. So when you look at the spellcasting page, the first thing you're going to do is fill this in just in case you forget what you are, what class you're playing. I don't really know why they do that. But then you're going to say what your spellcasting ability is. So as a ranger, she's got wisdom. And then spell save DC is 8. It starts at 8. And then you add your proficiency bonus and your wisdom. Well, your spellcasting ability. So she starts with the 8. She's got a +2 to proficiency. And then her wisdom is +4. So that is a 14. So if she ever casts a spell that something needs to make a spell save on, they've got to beat 14 to survive it. Her spell attack bonus is going to be the same thing, but just don't add the 8. So she's going to have a +6 to start out with. And then you'll pick out spells. There's a big list. Like as you can see this, maybe if it'll go down, I don't. Like, as you can see, the list of spells, it's an encyclopedia. It's 79 pages long of just pure spell energy. But the most important thing in this is just going to be, there's a list of spells that you can take in a class. So right here is her ranger list of spells. So just like grab us the spell.
Yeah, so I have the speak with animals spell, so
it's encyclopedic. I was just gonna say it's encyclopedic, so it's on that. You just go to S and you'd find everything you need to know about that.
Yeah, and if you don't want to look in the player's handbook, you can also just use like D&D Wiki online, and you can just click on the spell name and it will tell you what exactly the spell does. So you don't have to read like 79 pages.
Yeah. Do you want to go through, did you choose any attack spells that we can just
Yeah, so I have the Burning Hand spell. And
maybe.
I think, oh, that's definitely under like not a ranger. I got that with like my tiefling background.
Oh yeah.
Right. I also have Hail of Thorns. Thank you, Sam. It was nice that you joined us.
Yeah, you've got most of what you
Yeah.
need. This is like just
unnecessary.
unnecessary padding just in case.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It was, thank you for coming. Oh.
Jude, do you still want us to keep going, or are there like any other questions you might have?
I mean, I think I'm all good. Like I said, I've been playing for a little bit, so I've seen a little
I
bit of
think
variety.
you have played a spellcaster, so this is
I've currently played 3 different characters. 2 of them were warlocks. The one that wasn't a warlock died after 3 sessions. So
Rip.
yeah.
Sweet. I actually think you're going to be in the campaign that I'm in with Emma. The groups are like going to be released tonight, but I remember seeing your name.
Oh, cool.
I'm gonna stop sharing the screen.